doing. I mean, how do you sort of combat him not being segregated, or do you not mind him being segregated from the crowd? Do you want him to be segregated? How do you sort of balance what do you let him do and what do you not let him do?
Right, that's a very good point. Well, I think back to what my parents did to me when I was young. You know, there's a lot of things which they prohibited me from going to, a lot of things which I wanted to do, but in actual fact, they could see the big picture, whereas I couldn't. At 15, clearly you don't know everything. Now, me at 38, I don't know everything either. But the point is, they could actually see what was coming. They could see an end result of what a particular action would do. So they prohibited me from going certain places. And even though I didn't like it at the time, and I probably rebelled, etc., there was a good payoff in the end. I could actually see the benefit of that, which is what I try to do with the children. It's to actually restrict, number one, what they see.
So what? I know for me, I remember I wasn't allowed to watch a particular programme, I won't name it, but it's a soap that comes on all the time. And I used to get so upset because when my friends were talking about it at school, I didn't understand why I couldn't I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to watch it. Now I'm older, and I have decided now that I'm older, I do watch this particular programme. But I feel, and some Christians might sort of feel like this as well, and tell me what you think, but I feel that I'm old enough now to sort of decide what's right for me and what's not.
Okay.
I know what I can handle and I know what I can't handle.
Okay,
I know the Bible, if you like. What would you say to people like me?
That's a very good point. Now, for that, I would just take us back to one point. It's understanding one of the fundamental of seed time and harvest. God used seed time and harvest to create everything. Point number one, God used words to create everything. Point number two is he created us in his image, which means that we are also creators as well. We create by our words. Point number three is that the Bible says seed time and harvest, there's always multiplication. So when you plant a seed, for example, you plant an orange seed, you get an orange tree sprouting orange fruit and lots more seeds. And it basically self-perpetuates itself. And number four, in Galatians 6, it says, be not deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, he will reap. Now, for a person who says they can take it and they can understand it, as it says in Galatians, some of us are actually deceiving ourselves to thinking that we're excluded from seed time and harvest. The point is, in seed time and harvest, in agriculture, there's a point called dormancy, which is when a seed stays in the ground inactive for the simple reason that the conditions haven't been right for growth.
So what you're saying, if I continue to watch certain types of programmes that I think I'm okay, I'm safe, that if the situation's right, even though nothing's sort of happening now, maybe if I keep filling my mind with certain things, when the situation's right, I'm going to behave in a certain way.
That's exactly how it works. It's like a ticking time bomb. It's like once you fill your mind with a certain thing, as soon as the conditions become right for growth, then it will be there. You may not see it growing, similar to the riots which have happened recently. These people were supposed peaceful people all this time, without the riots a couple of days before. But all of a sudden, a flashpoint, and then we have a riot. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. The riot didn't just happen out of thin air. I mean, by people spending time watching TV violence, movie violence, I mean, everything gets desensitized and glorified that violence is good. Doing all these different things, there's no shame anymore in society, which means that you have people planting these seeds planted in people's spirit, which means all of a sudden, as soon as one little point ticks them off,
they explode.
That's
well,
right.
In your opinion then, what music should we be listening to, especially as Christians?
Right.
What do you suggest?
Now, Paul gave instructions to the Philippians. He says, it's very clear in Philippians 4, he says, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are good report, if it's noble, if it's praiseworthy, think on these things. Which means that it doesn't always have to be attached to, it doesn't always have to be necessarily gospel music, but things which glorify God's creation. Anything which is good, if it's wholesome, if it's pure, if it's of good report, there's lots of things out there which actually glorify God's creation without it being secular. Without it being secular means anything which is heathenistic, basically. and anything which is sourced from the pit of hell.
So for the young ones, you would suggest then they need to think on these things. Are you saying that it doesn't matter necessarily what type of music you listen to, whether it be gospel or, you know, non-Christian, whatever, just as long as it's promoting things that are biblical?
That's right.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what...
Then wouldn't you say then we wouldn't ever listen to, not condoning it, but we'd never listen to anything. We'd never watch anything.
Well, there's a lot of things which we just shouldn't be watching. It's as simple as that, because we need to, what it says in Proverbs 3, it says, guard your heart with all diligence. As in when it says guard, it's just like put a watchman in front of your, in front of the entrances to our mind. The entrances to our mind are our eyes, what we see, our ears, what we hear. Those are the primary receptors, which effectively feeds our spirit. Now, if we're actually guarding those entry points, it also says in 2 Corinthians 10, it's got out of my head. 2 Corinthians 10 says, taking into captivity every thought into the obedience of Christ. So to paraphrase, it's taking every thought that comes to you and actually subjecting it to an interrogation.